continue with the operation. You may fire when ready.
Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 5 of Fire When Ready. I am your host, Alex Corey, and on this podcast, I talk about my thoughts on all things geeky, being the world of movies, TV, comics, because Harry Potter must not go back to Hogwarts! Yes. So, on this show, sometimes I'll write solo and on occasion invite special guests, and today, I have another amazing guest. He's a fantastic film reviewer for his blog, RI Movie Corner. Please welcome Mr. Sean Nasuti. Sean, how are you, my friend?
Wait, you're applying for a loan too? Sorry. How you doing, folks? And for the record, my name is Sean Nasuti. Yes, I am a aspiring film critic, and I currently write reviews, editorials, top 10 lists, all that good stuff and whatnot for my blog, Rhode Island Movie Corner. You can access that at rimoviecorner.blogspot.com. And now that I got that shameless cross promotion out of the way, Alex, how are you doing, my good man?
Doing very, 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 very well. So by the time this episode releases, Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald will be releasing this week, and yes, you and I are very excited. So for this episode, we're big Harry Potter fans. You and I grew up with the franchise, so in order to honor the release of Crimes of Grindelwald, Sean and I wanted to talk about our favorite Harry Potter movie memories. We're big fans of the film franchise, and they've had an impact on our lives and our love of film, and yeah, so we just wanted to go over with you guys some of the things in the franchise that are very special to us. So Sean, we're gonna go over some questions here of some of our favorite things in the franchise, and let's get right into it. All right, so
this is gonna be that deleted scene in Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets where Gilderoy Lockhart puts them all through a test, and questions are all about him. Like, what did Gilderoy Lockhart do in Bulgaria, as referenced in his novel To Catch a Yeti? You know about that deleted scene, right, from the book?
No, I don't know about that scene, but that's amazing.
Of course. Anyway, we're going a bit off track. The second film they introduce Kenneth Branagh's Gilderoy Lockhart, who claims to be one of the greatest wizards ever, but he turns out to be a fraud. So he still has a whole bunch of books, and then the first quiz he has as the defense against the dark arts teacher, it's like he has all these questions that literally no one would know unless they read his books.
I love it. It's.
But yes, let's do this thing.
Yeah. All right. So to start off, so the first question is, I kind of want to go back to the beginning of how this love of Harry Potter started. So, Sean, what is the first Harry Potter film you experienced in theaters?
Now that is a good question. To start things, I would say that I was born in 1995, and it was a few years after I was born. Of course, is when the books were first published. Mm-hmm. I remember my family did own them, and my mom read them to my brother when we were growing up. I might have read at least a few parts of the first book, but I think the films were my first true experience with the franchise. After that, obviously, I started to read the books. But of course, for me, it all started with the original Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Nice. And initially, actually, there's an interesting little thing with me with these films is that initially I saw each of them in a different movie theater. Actually, literally every film was a different movie theater. And had I kept that going through that from the beginning to Deathly Hallows Part 2, I would have ended with seeing Deathly Hallows Part 2, where I saw Part 1, Sorcerer's Stone, or for those who live in the UK, Philosopher's Stone. But for the sake of this podcast, we'll be talking about it. We'll be referring to it as Sorcerer's Stone, if that's okay with you.
That's totally fine.
Anyway, like I said, I saw the last one where I saw the first one, but I ended up seeing the last one at the same movie theater, so that didn't turn out as much like that. But it was a nice little interesting tidbit about how I experienced this franchise. Of course, like I said, the first one was Sorcerer's Stone, and if you don't mind, I'm going to name drop a theater here. I saw it at the Regal Cinemas in Bellingham, Massachusetts. It wasn't what it's called now. It wasn't. I don't think it was a Regal back then. It was Hoyts, I think. That cinema was. And I remember that. I remember, like I said, I think I at least read a few parts of Sorcerer's Stone beforehand. But like I said, I think the film was like my first real experience with this franchise. And obviously, I was about, if I'm right, 6 at the time. And these films can have some scary imagery and stuff. Like in the case of Sorcerer's Stone, you have a giant 3-headed dog, who ironically is named Fluffy. A sequence in the Forbidden Forest where you have the guy sucking blood out of a unicorn, pretty creepy. And then, of course, the big reveal at the end that Professor Quirrell has been holding Voldemort's face on the back of his head. So on a side note, I know people don't like the Star Wars edition changes, but probably I'm not the only one who would want to see like them change like the face on the back to Ray Fiennes' old one, continuity on that.
Right.
From all of that stuff, like all that creepy stuff, I wasn't terrified of that stuff anyway. I mean, there was a kind of an interesting moment the first time I saw this, and I'll be honest, this is kind of stupid. I'll be totally blunt. For a reason I can't really explain, but so spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen these films yet, though. Really, if you're listening to this, why haven't you watched them?
Right.
Anyway, so of course at the end, Harry defeats Quirrell and Voldemort because Harry is protected by the power of his mother's love, and he allows him to like prevent Quirrell from touching him, and to the point where he literally disintegrates. Another moment that would be crappy pants terrifying, but again, I'm like, ooh. But anyway, after that, when Harry grabs the stone, we then see Voldemort's spirit lunge at him, and that is a creepy moment itself. But hey, for some reason that I cannot explain, I want to be clear with this. I wasn't drinking. I was 6 at the time. People, come on. For some reason, when that moment when he lunges at when the spirit goes at the camera, I swear I saw something different. Like, again, I can't explain this, but I thought I saw like a demonic looking face. I can't explain this. I don't know what happened here, but this scared me so much that I could never watch that film's finale for years. Like, I watched the film obviously, but once it gets out, I'm just like, either I skip it on the DVD or I just walk out of the room for about 10 like the length of that scene. It's, again, a very weird thing. I can never explain why that was the case, but it is what it is. Also, just actually a funny tidbit during the hospital scene at the end, after he defeats Voldemort. I go see this with my family, including my grandma, who's also reading the books. Her phone went off during that scene, and everyone's just like, "Hey, turn your phone off!" Like, "Hey, turn that phone off." That was a funny little thing.
That's great.
But anyway, aside from that, like I said, Sorcerer's Stone, of course, that's where it all began, and the rest is history there.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, you were saying?
And yeah, that's really it. Really, like I said, it was the first film, and that's where my love of this great franchise got started.
Right on. Yeah. I mean, that's definitely the one to start with. So for me, the first Potter film that I saw in the theater, it wasn't Sorcerer's Stone, it wasn't Chamber of Secrets, but yeah. So that's another story in and of itself. How I saw I saw Sorcerer's Stone and Chamber of Secrets at home for the first time, but the first one I got to experience in theaters. And for the record, I loved both of those, both Sorcerer's Stone and Chamber of Secrets at the time. When I was a kid, like they both, this series, just made my love of cinema just soar. Like, because I was never really a big live action filmmaking fan. I was always drawn to animation, and that's just what I liked as a kid. But it wasn't until I saw Chamber of Secrets the first time that. Because, yeah, I saw the second one before the first one. I know it's weird. But yeah, that just made my love of cinema soar and made me love fantasy and just it helped me branch out, is what I'm trying to say. But so the first film I saw in the theater was Prisoner of Azkaban. And I remember it just being so immersive because, I was used to... So Chris Columbus directed the first 2 Potter films.
Mm-hmm.
And... yeah, so it was basically, stylistically, they were both pretty similar. I mean, and you could probably argue that this Chamber of Secrets is basically the first movie again, and that's valid, that's fair. I mean, I love them both regardless, but yeah, we just never saw like a different take on the Potter franchise yet. We never saw a different directing style, and just visually, stylistically, what Alfonso Cuarón did with that film is just incredible. And so, even though I really didn't understand why it was aesthetically different at the time, like I just knew when I was watching the movie, like, oh, this is different than Chamber of Secrets and Sorcerer's Stone. And man, I loved Prisoner of Azkaban when I was a kid, and seeing that in theaters with my father and my grandmother, and just like enjoying the experience, having so much fun. There was a lot of, these movies have great humor in them, and yeah, it was just so much fun. And I remember it being really long too. I wasn't used to sitting in a really long 2.5 hour movie. I was like, whoa. But yeah, it was just...
Thank God you didn't go see Chamber of Secrets then, because otherwise, because remember, Chamber of Secrets, it's the second shortest book. Long film in the series if you don't combine Deathly Hallows, the two parts of Deathly Hallows.
Right, yeah. Or I think Prisoner of Azkaban was like 220, I want to say. But other than that, like, yeah, I just remember like thinking it was just I don't know, it just kind of felt like a revelation, because I never saw a film like that. I never really saw fantasy films in the theater, and it had that gothic style, and it was also really funny and just adventurous. I never seen anything like that in the theater before, and I think that's why it was just so special. And it was different, and it was a different kind of Harry Potter movie. So yeah, that was my first film, Harry Potter film I saw in the theater, and I'll always remember it.
Yeah, I mean, Prisoner of Azkaban, by all accounts and purposes, that's because again, like I said, the first two, they did well with critics, they did well box office hits. This one was the first that really got critically acclaimed. This was, from all accounts and purposes, I didn't. Obviously, when we're younger, we don't really get the idea of like how critics and audiences react to them and whatnot. But
right.
What we now know, Prisoner of Azkaban was the first one that we can say basically that this one made the franchise cool. This was the one that actually made it legit. If you get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, it definitely felt a little more mature, didn't it?
And I was also remembering back then there was a lot of buzz about this one, mainly because, again, like I said, it was a different director. They switched to Alfonso Cuarón, but also because they had to recast Dumbledore because Richard Harris passed away after the Chamber of Secrets. Rest in peace.
Yeah.
And they cast Michael Gambon. Actually, before we go on to that, who's your favorite of Dumbledore? Harris or Gambon?
Oh, that's really hard. Man. Oh man, I can't choose. I love both of them so much. I think I'll give a slight edge to Gambon because I don't know. I don't really because Harris kind of seems a little more frail than Gambon. I just really couldn't picture Harris doing like the action scenes in Half-Blood Prince. But yeah, I don't know.
To be fair, yeah. He was very old at the time, but Harris worked in his films, and of course
yes.
then Gambon worked in his films. So of course we got to bring this up. Of course, probably one of the most controversial deviations from the book. Goblet of Fire, when Harry turns out to be chosen in the book. Calmly, I was like, Harry, did you put your name in the Goblet of Fire? And then in the movie, Harry, did you put your name in the Goblet of Fire?
Right. I mean, how can you not reference that?
Anyway, going back to Prison of Azkaban for a second. If I'm right, this is my favorite at the time. I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And I still enjoy it now. It's not my number one favorite anymore, and of course, this is just a franchise going evolving with each film, but it's still great. Like I said, all these films are great, and I still remember growing up with these first three films. These were like I said, how a lot of people refer to them as this generation Star Wars.
Oh yeah.
That was the case for me growing up. This was Harry Potter. Harry Potter was all the rage for me.
Me too.
Side note, before we continue from that, this is a total deviation, I'll admit. Remember when these films had amazing DVD bonus features?
Oh yeah. The special features were great.
Interactive games that could be a little frustrating actually, because it's like you have to remember patterns like left, right, down. Oh wait, is it supposed to go down? Oh, dang it, game over. But aside from that, there's also like I can't really explain like those ways where you go around like the big sets, like in Chamber of Secrets, you can go explore around the Chamber of Secrets, and like there's like little features that you can like they give you like little clips of like how they constructed the set and whatnot.
Yeah, I think I do remember that actually.
Yeah, that was amazing, and also I frequently played some of the video game adaptations of the films that came out over the years, like
Yeah.
mainly the first film on PlayStation 1, with the infamous facial. You probably, I don't know if you've seen them, like the infamous facial features of all the characters in the PS1 game.
No, I don't think I've seen all of them, but yeah, I mean, it was the '90s at its time.
Well, I guess I'm gonna have to show you that. But anyway, you can go continue right now as I get this set for you.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so the next question that I definitely want to bring up, we talked about the first film we experienced in theaters, but the second one I wanted to talk about is our favorite Harry Potter movie memory. It could be something in theaters, maybe it was just something at home, something really small. But yeah, so Sean, what was your favorite Harry Potter movie memory?
Now, this one I gotta be honest, it's kind of predictable, but finishing it all off with Deathly Hallows Part 2. This was probably one of the most hyped films of all time. Like, for fans of people who grew up with this franchise, to see it at the very end of its run, well, obviously before Fantastic Beasts came out, this was something special. This was, again, first midnight premiere. I went to go see it at the theater. Like I said, I went to go see the last 4 films at the Lincoln Mall in Lincoln, Rhode Island. The line to get in was literally around the entire mall. It's like this Lincoln Mall is kind of like a cross shaped mall. Like, so it has the sides on each side, and like I said, it went around the entire mall. It was, like, people were ready for it. And then I also remember, if you remember, like, there was a little bonus that people got at that. You get to see the first teaser trailer for The Dark Knight Rises, which obviously was a big deal.
Right, yeah.
Film. Now, I'll admit, though, I kind of made a boneheaded mistake when I went to go see this. I went to go see it in 3D. The reason why is because I remember this is back when 3D was really, again, re-emerging as a big thing back then, 2009 Avatar and all that whatnot. So I heard reports that said the first film, that Deathly Hallows Part 1 wasn't filmed in 3D, but Part 2 was. And I think nowadays, they didn't actually do it. It was just the post-conversion stuff. And word of advice, don't see a film in 3D that has a lot of sequences set in the dark.
Right.
It's between this and seeing Thor in 3D and like the front rows of the theater. Ooh, that's not pleasant. And also, Matthew Goodrow, one of our good friends, who's also a fellow film fan. If you're listening, my apologies for picking 3D. But again, everyone was there. We were hooked from the beginning to end. I remember everyone cheering when Neville killed Nagini, and of course, there was not a dry eye in the sight during the big scene reveal when we see that Snape was a good guy all along. Lily, after all this time, always, like, man, yes. And of course, by the end, the final scene, with some music that we'll talk about again a little later, but just at the final moment, whew, man, it's an obvious choice, but yeah, growing up in this franchise and experiencing its epic finale, a lot of people will agree with this. I'm shocked this did not get a Best Picture nomination. Like, it was one of the best reviewed films of the year. Why didn't it get a nomination? And I'll be blunt, it could have won. I seriously think it could have won.
No, I agree with you. I thought this movie was definitely it was definitely at the level of Return of the King, and not just because it was a concluding I want to say episode, but not Star Wars, but concluding as the conclusion to the series. It just felt very epic in scale, and it was larger than life, and it was massive, and it was really all that it could have been and more. And yeah, right on with your choice. And I'm actually going to steal that choice because Deathly Hallows Part 2 is also my favorite Harry Potter movie memory. I too was like you and went to that midnight screening. I remember I went with my 2 friends who were brothers and his father, and we waited in line at it was 6 o'clock. And we just sat in that theater for hours upon hours until the film started. I kind of regret not putting Harry Potter and Deathly Hallows Part 1 on my iPod Touch at the time, but who cares? So I was just
This reminds us of the time we went to go see Force Awakens, and I decided, no, let's go at 2 in the afternoon. That'll totally work.
Right. Yeah, don't do that nowadays. Just word of the wise. But yeah, so we did that for Harry Potter, and yeah, it was definitely one of my favorite. It's probably my favorite experience in the theater, because I never, felt that energy sitting down and watching a film, and like, I never heard applause during a movie before. I never heard just laughter, and I've even heard like some people crying too. But yeah, it felt like more like an event than it did just like, oh, let's just go to a movie tonight. It felt more than that, because I had a history with these films. Everybody who was with me was just amped and just couldn't wait to see how the film series would conclude. And it was that experience was just everything I ever wanted it to be and more. And I just thought it was very, very special. And I'm so glad I got to experience that at midnight, because as soon as I saw that first teaser trailer for Deathly Hallows Part 2, I was just like, oh man, I got to see this at midnight. Like there's just no excuse for me not to go see this at midnight. I love the series, and I just have to be one of the first people to see it, and I did. And yeah, it was incredible. And I think the movie still is, it's one of the best fantasy movies of all time. And I think I agree with you. I think it was Best Picture worthy, and if it was nominated, it probably would have won, because it just, this series has just had such a big impact, and it's a phenomenon, and it still is a phenomenon, So, yeah, that's my favorite movie memory just of all time.
Yeah, I mean, Return of the King got nominated for Best Picture,
right,
and it won.
Yep.
So why not Harry Potter?
Yeah, right, man.
The reason I hear is that apparently, oh, they switch directors all the time, like, this films get changed. I'm like, yeah, but what's so wrong about that? They changed and they got better. Like I said, like, Deathly Hallows Part 2 was truly a monumental moment in film history. Like, exactly. But yeah, it's just like I said, there's a lot of other memories to talk about this and stuff like that. It's just so damn great.
It really, really is. All right, so moving on to the next question. It's a bit of a, probably a little more depressing, but hey, that's just why this series is so good, because it can just pull you in so many different directions emotionally. But yeah, so the next question here is, what do you think is the saddest scene in the series?
I'm gonna do something a little different. I think most people would say, the last scene with Snape, and I just talked about earlier, when you see that he was in love with Harry's mom, and his dad stayed with him all the way to the end of his days. It's again a legendary scene, brilliant performance by Alan Rickman, rest in peace. Like I said, legendary scene, but just for the sake of being a little different, I'm going to honor a different scene, if that's okay.
Sure, yeah, go for it.
I'm going back to Order of the Phoenix for the tragic passing of Harry's godfather, Sirius Black. And there's a lot of reasons why this scene's great. For starters, like I said, how we characterize Sirius Black. In Prison of Azkaban, we first meet him. We learn he's a menace. Like he's not to be messed with. Like, he broke out of Azkaban. He's coming to kill Harry. But then, of course, we reveal that no, he is not doing that. He's Harry's godfather and stuff. And we see that just in the brief scenes at the end of the Prison of Azkaban. Sirius Black was, for all intents and purposes, Harry Potter's first true father figure in a lot of ways. Harry's on good terms with Dumbledore, but like I said, Sirius was I'd say probably the first adult figure who I'd say truly cared for him. And aside from Hagrid, obviously, because Hagrid's a man, but he's what I'm talking about, right?
Absolutely, yeah. That's a great analogy.
Yeah, and the scenes between Gary Oldman and Daniel Radcliffe are amazing, especially in Order of the Phoenix. One of my favorite scenes of all time, literally, and not just the franchise period, is the scene where in Order of the Phoenix, where part of the main plot is that Harry feels he's starting to get overtaken by Voldemort, and I don't have the exact quote on me, but I'm skimming to it right now. The scene where they're in the room where he has the black. Feel so angry all the time.
Oh yeah, that's a great scene.
Like I said, brilliant scene in terms of performances and whatnot. And just give me 1 sec. Actually, I'm just gonna Sirius does what he does to comfort him is like, I want you to listen to me very carefully, Harry. You're not a bad person. You're a very good person who bad things have happened to. The world isn't split into good people and Death Eaters. We've all got light, both light and dark inside us. What matters is the part we choose to act on. That's who we really are. Like that scene, that's one of my favorite scenes of all time. Like it's brilliantly acted by Radcliffe and Oldman. And then, of course, we go all the way to the end, where, of course, sadly, Sirius tragically dies. He gets killed by his cousin Bellatrix. And I know, like the way that he disappears, like it was a kind of a controversial, kind of had people who were confused about both the book and the movie. Like in the movie, he just sinks back to like that veil like thing and like and the magic, but still, it's just a styling thing. It just happens like oh damn. And then you see Harry reacting again silently, which apparently they cut just because his screams that was just way too much. And I do agree, that was just like, man. You see Lupin holding him back, and then he goes after Bellatrix. Just like I said, just a really powerful scene. Like I said, Harry lost his first true father figure he's ever experienced in his life because obviously he didn't have his parents around because they were killed when he was just a baby. So. That's my pick outside of the Snape scene in Deathly Hallows Part 2, of course. A darn great scene.
Okay, so my saddest scene is one you actually already mentioned. And not Sirius, but Snape.
Of course.
Yeah, that big reveal this might be controversial and some people might want to shoot me in the face for this, but I didn't read all the books. I read only the first 3 when I was a kid. And I'm actually I've always been more of a movie fan than a book fan, so for everything. But yeah, I didn't know the twist going in, and so seeing that big reveal, I was just like, oh, what? So yeah, I didn't see that coming, and yeah, just like seeing all the flashbacks and just Alan Rickman's just captivating performance, and just that whole sequence, I really resonated with me, and. That whole, what really gets me is, and I have no problem saying this, like, I like when you see, like, those moments before, Harry's parents are murdered, like that, oh god, I'm gonna get choked up thinking about it, but that really gets to me, but it's just a beautifully directed scene. David Yates, by the way, David Yates is, by far, I think, one of the most underrated directors, in this series, and probably one of the most underrated directors of all time. I thought he really handled, the last 4 films beautifully, stylistically. But yeah, that Snape scene really struck a chord, and yeah, I loved it.
Exactly, like you mentioned the scene like right before we see the last time like Harry's spoken to by his parents before they died. Like Harry, be safe, be strong. But then you also see like Snape going up. You see his dad dead, like you hear like that's like, don't you dare say a word about my father from like the 5th film,
yeah.
And then when Snape comes across Lily and he's tearfully holding her in his arms, like this man.
Yeah.
Man.
It really struck a chord.
And again, seriously, why didn't this get nominated for Best Picture? Seriously.
Yeah, right, man. I couldn't have said it any better.
This one also, just go with some other sad scenes.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, where every film all of Yates' films end with one major death. Anyone notice that? I mean, I guess aside from Deathly Hallows Part 2, which are a lot of deaths, but like the first 3 of Yates' films, like all end with like one major death. Actually, Phoenix was Sirius, or Half-Blood Prince was Dumbledore, and that's a great scene.
Yeah.
They have when they they raise their wands and like the lights come up, like that's a great moment.
Oh, chills.
Deathly Hallows Part 1, where you see Dobby's got hit with Bellatrix Snipe. This film works. It makes you care about a character who, like I said, is just a CG creation. Like I can imagine, like Daniel Radcliffe wasn't. I don't know what Daniel Radcliffe was holding in that scene really when they were filming it, but like that's like I said, it also helps illustrate that Deathly Hallows Part 1 doesn't end on a good note. It ends with Dobby's death, and then Voldemort gets the Elder Wand from Dumbledore's grave, and just. No, it leaves you on a cliffhanger, and like I said, this series has it all: funny moments, serious moments, emotional moments, all that good stuff.
Oh yeah, definitely. You couldn't have said it any better. So on to the next question. It's kind of lighten the mood. We talked about some very on the more depressing side. But a good kind of depressing. It's a good, for a movie to move you emotionally, or movies in this case. So the next question here I got is, what do you think is the funniest scene in the entire series?
This is probably the hardest question because there's a lot of moments through all the films. Like, I'll end on my personal favorite. I'll be honest, I don't think I have a specific moment, but I'm just gonna go for all the moments. If it's a couple moments, if that's okay.
Yeah, totally.
This is not gonna be like this is gonna be like a 30 minutes of us just quoting lines back and forth.
That's fine.
The first film, after they first meet Fluffy, Hermione's like, if you don't mind, I'm going to bed before either of you have another harebrained scheme to get us killed, or worse, expelled. And then you see Ron goes, she needs to get her priorities straight. And then when they do the broomsticks, and Harry has, of course, he's a badass, goes, oh, already goes up, but, and then Ron, when he does it, Harry.
Right.
and Harry gets the broom up, you just see Hermione's like, really? After when he goes to save Neville's remember all, she goes, what? An idiot. And then in Chamber of Secrets, I'm trying to remember a moment actually, because that was I think a bit harder to track in terms of funny moments. I'm trying to remember was the stuff with Gilderoy Lockhart, obviously.
Yeah, classic.
Petrified. Oh yes, that totally. I can't believe I didn't think about that first. At the end, when he obliviates his memory, he goes, "Oh, hello, who are you? Who am I?" And then he grabs a rock. Oh, this place. Do you live here? And then Azkaban, a lot. That one's also looks fun. I think I remember some fun, great moments too. It's not because I'll admit actually. I'll explain actually because the fourth film was the one where I first noticed people laughing at a funny line in the movie Goblet of Fire. But again, there's something for Prisoner of Azkaban. I can't remember it at the moment. So I'm just gonna skip ahead to Goblet of Fire actually. So the first time I noticed people were really laughing was when Ron got his unique dress robes. Let's call them unique. And we just cut to him from the bottom. He just pans up. He's like, oh, bloody hell. And then Harry comes in like, what are those? My dress robes. But they look decent. I smell like my great aunt Tessie. I look like my great aunt Tessie. I smell like my great aunt Tessie. Then going back to that, because of course we're referring to the scene where they participate in the Yule Ball, the Triwizard Tournament. And they have to learn about that. It's like, oh wait, we have to dance. And then McGonagall gets Ron to come up and dance with him. Like, put your right hand on my waist. Where? On my waist. Didn't you hear someone just go? Right. I can't whistle those, but someone will whistle like, wow. I want to know who that was. Who did that?
Yeah, right. That's a big mystery.
And Fred and George is like, and Harry's like, hey, we won't let him forget this, right? And of course, when Fred and George try to put their names into the Triwizard Tournament, and then they're like, but yeah. Then they get blasted back, and they get old beards, like, you said, and then they just fight around like, yeah, but you're older. Great one there. Or going to and then moving on to Order of the Phoenix, when they have all the montages, I think it's when Umbridge is going around and you just hear the music go. It sounds funny, but it's kind of a funny juxtaposition, her going around just messing things up, and just hear the music go. But obviously the funniest stuff would come from Half-Blood Prince. I mean, as my friend Matt Kajoko is, it's basically Harry Potter and the Breakfast Club, because it's more about the interaction between the characters, relationships and whatnot. But there's a lot of good stuff too, when they're in the library, Harry and Hermione in the library, he sees someone trying to hit on her. I mean, trying to hit on him. And she's like, hey, she's only interested in you because I'm your chosen one. But I am the chosen one. Okay, sorry, kidding. I think actually my favorite funny moment is when he has to get the secret like memory of the Horcruxes from Slughorn's mind, and so he does it by drinking the Felix Felicis potion. He's like, oh yeah, I feel very good. I just have to feel. I just gotta go to Hagrid's right now. I'm not sure. I can't explain. I just feel really good. And he just leaves and goes. And he's just as somebody passes by and goes, hi. And then when he comes across Slughorn, when he starts to leave, Slughorn's like, Harry, sir. And lastly, when what should be a sad, and is a partially sad moment when Hagrid's memorializing Aragog the Spider from Chamber of Secrets. No, very dangerous. Not to mention the pincers. Just that whole scene, like Danny Rocco's excellent, just being incredibly over the top and stuff like that. It's just a great scene. And then, like I said, as I noted from recounting all these quotes, there are a lot of funny scenes in this series. It's just, but that one I'd say is probably my favorite. Just him, becoming a crazy person, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. You actually stole mine. That is actually the funniest scene for me. Yeah, you're right. Just. Daniel Radcliffe's acting, his commitment, like, and the interactions he has with Slughorn, and Slughorn I think is hilarious. I love Jim Broadbent's portrayal, and yeah, just that whole interaction with the Aragog's funeral or whatever, and then like afterwards, and then Slughorn's like, oh, I once had a fish, like that whole it's great. I mean, how can you not love that scene?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, so
there's a lot of hilarious. Another one from Half-Blood Prince is when the big scene where Ron gets put under the influence of love potion. Like,
yes.
Oh, yeah, great. Have you ever actually met her? No. Can you introduce me? And then they go to Slughorn. Ron just seduces Slughorn. Oh, how's your drink? And at the end, when he gets hospitalized, his girlfriend from that film, was Lavender, if I'm right. I forget.
Yeah, Lavender.
Lavender comes in and is like, oh, run, and she actually goes like, how can you not be? Where? I forget Hermione's exact words. Like, he got poisoned. I think it was over here. I forget the exact like line she said. Like, you know what I'm talking about? When
yeah, I do know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and then by the end, when she breaks up with him, she runs out, and Dumbledore just goes, "Oh, to be young and experience love's first sting."
Yes. Yeah,
Gambler was great in terms of the funny the comedy moments, like good, just like the dry humor.
I agree.
Yeah.
I guess that's it for that question. Yeah, I think we both agree Half-Blood Prince is the funniest. But there's a lot of other great funny moments scattered throughout. But yeah, totally, Half-Blood Prince had the funniest moment for both of us. And that is the end of part 1. Thank you guys so much for listening, and be sure to tune in to part 2 in about a couple weeks as this episode premieres. And that will be November 26th. Please tune into that. We're going to continue all the discussions and our favorite scenes and movie memories and all that amazing stuff. So thank you guys so much for listening to part 1. Tune into part 2 in a couple weeks. And so as far as social media goes, you can follow Sean. He's not on right now. I'm just kind of recording this. Off the cuff, but you can follow Sean on his blog, Rhode Island Movie Corner. That's rimoviecorner.blogspot.com. He has a lot of great content there, a lot of amazing reviews, editorials, top 10 lists. He writes them all himself, and he does an amazing job doing it, so give him a follow there, give him some love. And as far as me, you can follow me at Alex J. Corey on Twitter and Instagram. And you can follow my Facebook page at facebook.com/thealexcorey. I'll post links to my new episodes here, as well as I have some YouTube content coming, so be on the lookout for that. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening to part 1, and we'll see you in the next episode. Mischief managed.